guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Julene, and today we're going to be talking about breastfeeding essentials. So we're going to be talking about everything that you need for breastfeeding as a breastfeeding mama and what you're going to use to store your milk in and all those things. So let's start off with the pump. I got this manual pump. It's the Medela manual pump, and it is amazing. In the beginning, I had a little bit of trouble with my milk supply, and this baby over here helped me with my milk. So it's just a manual pump. You can just take this off. It's just for a stand. But you just basically put this on your breast, and then you just have to pump. You have to do one at a time if you only have one. If you have two, then wonderful. You can do them both at the same time. The suction is pretty good on this thing, and I feel like it works really well. Even if you just don't want to sit through like a whole pumping session, because sometimes those are like tedious and they take a while. And maybe if you're a little bit engorged, you can always just put this on there and this will do the trick, and this will take out your milk and it'll help with the letdown, especially if you're feeling very full. You can just put this on for a little bit, just pump for a few seconds or maybe a minute, and it'll get a lot of milk out. So I really like this. This is amazing. Now, I actually have an electric pump, and the electric pump that I have is the Spectra. This is the Spectra S1. There's also the S2, which is the pink one. And so you guys have to pay attention when you guys get this electric pump, because I actually wanted the pink one because it's cuter. But it's actually different. And with the pink one, I believe that you have to stay plugged into the wall. Whereas with this one, you can actually take it with you and move around. So you don't have to be connected to the wall. And so it makes it so much easier because you can pick up and grab it as opposed to being stuck sitting down, connected the entire time. So this pump comes with obviously the cords, and then it comes with the bottles. So all you have to do is you just connect the bottles to this cord, I don't know what it's called, and you can put it on your boob. You can put one at a time, or you can do both. It does have the options here in the front, so you can actually pop these things right off, and you can cover it with a little cap and then put it back on if you want to do both breasts at the same time. When it comes to pumps, for me, that manual pump was just amazing, and then the Spectra S1 were just great, and they worked really well for me. There's also this little pump called the Hakka. I mean, I don't know if I would call it a pump, but it's basically just this manual thing. It comes with a little lid, I believe, and it has a little suction at the bottom. So you can place it on the table and it won't topple over. What you do is you actually peel this back, and then you place it on your breast, and so then it'll kind of like suck your nipple in there, and then all you have to do is just pump it a little bit, or you can just leave it there and it'll catch all the letdown. While you're breastfeeding your baby on one side, you can actually be catching the letdown on the other. And this is so important because I feel like people don't normally know that. But when you place your baby on one breast, the other breast tends to leak. So the Hakka is great just to catch a little bit of letdown. You wouldn't believe how much you actually produce or how much you actually leak when the baby is drinking. I actually was able to collect between 1 to 2 ounces every time that I breastfed. And for my particular case, like I would put the baby on one, and then I would always put the Hakka on the other, and it helped me build my stash, which for me was super important. Now I have a nice freezer full thanks to all of these things. Talking about freezer stash, you definitely need some bags. There are different bags out there. The ones that I got were the Medela ones. They come in a little bag like this, and it's pretty cool because it tells you what you have to do. The bag just looks like this, and it has the measurements on it, and then it has space for you to put the name and the date and the amount. The only thing about these was that when you actually pour the milk into the bag, it's kind of hard to measure it because the bag doesn't really expand fully. So it's just better if you just measure it in a different container. So for example, the Spectra has the bottles with measurements on them, and so you could just measure it on here and then just pour it in, and it makes it so much easier. That's actually what I did. It's important for you not to mix milk that you just pulled out with milk that's already refrigerated. So it's also important to have some sort of container inside of the refrigerator where you can separate your milks. Once they're both cold, then you can go ahead and mix them together. You're not supposed to mix room temperature milk with milk that has already been cooled down. So that's just a little tip there. When it came to bottles, I used the Komotomo bottles. So there were 2 sizes. They have this one that's 5 ounces, and then they have one that's a little bit bigger, and this one was 8 ounces. So the reason why I chose these bottles was because they said that they were very similar to a breast, which when you look at them, they kind of are, because, you know, I mean, that is kind of what a breast looks like, and it's nice and soft. So I don't know if you can see, but it actually squeezes. So the baby can actually put their little mouth on it, and it could actually feel like a normal breast. And I feel like the nipple comes out enough also. The only thing is that I feel like because the nipple part is so long, sometimes if you put the baby on the bottle before you put the baby on the breast, which is kind of what happened to me, then the baby would not latch on correctly, because the baby's supposed to latch on grabbing the entire areola, and because the nipple was kind of long on this, the baby would latch onto the nipple, and then he was just latching onto my nipple. So I don't know if I would do these again. If you guys go with this bottle, I would definitely put the baby on the breast first before using this bottle, just so that you don't have that issue. But then again, you may not. This is just my experience, and I'm sharing it with you guys. This bottle is completely different to the other one because, as you guys can see, it's a lot smaller. So this part's a lot bigger and this part's a lot smaller over here. So the baby is actually supposed to put their entire mouth around here, and that's how they get a proper latch. So I ended up seeing a lactation consultant, and the lactation consultant told me to switch to these bottles. That way my baby could get used to latching around, and that way he would have a better latch on my breast. So I don't know if that helps anybody out, but it definitely helped me out. It changed the game. At first, I kind of had to supplement with formula for 1 or 2 days, but in the beginning, it was definitely hard, like I said, and I feel like the bottle had a lot to do with it. So if a bottle's not working for you, you might want to try out a different bottle. It's always important to try out different ones so you can see what your baby likes. But when it came to heating up the breast milk, you obviously need a bottle warmer. The bottle warmer that I have is this Philips Avent one. And what's cool about this one is that the inside is pretty spacious, so it fits all size bottles, because as you guys can see, these Tomo bottles are kind of thicker than your average bottle that's a little bit narrower. Even the one here on the Medela pump is smaller than the Tomo one. So the only thing is, these are only things that you realize once you're actually doing these things, but the Tomo bottles are actually really thick. I mean, you probably can't see it here, but this material is really, really thick material. So when it went to heating up the milk, it actually took forever to heat the milk in these. It would take me like 15 minutes to heat up like 2 or 3 ounces in this. It was just crazy. And obviously I didn't know any better, so I just did this for a while. And then when the lactation consultant told me to switch bottles, I actually warmed the milk in this bottle. And oh my gosh, what a difference. The same 2 or 3 ounces heated up in 2 minutes. So it's so important to notice like the thickness of the bottles, because it definitely impacts the heating time. And then one of the most tedious things, and probably what most moms are frustrated about, is having to clean all these bottles. And I would say that any bottle sterilizer works really. The one that I have is the Baby Breeza one. It's this one over here. It's pretty good. It works out pretty well. You have to use distilled water because regular water has minerals in it, and so it kind of messes the machine up. It actually has space for about 5 bottles at a time, so that's not bad. The next thing are your articles of clothing. You probably want to wear a nursing bra because it's just easier. So I have a black nursing bra here and a beige one, just because those were the first ones that I pulled out of my drawer. But you know, like all nursing bras, they just clip on and off, which is awesome. And you know, people always tell you to get nipple shields, and yeah, they are a good idea because sometimes you leak and you obviously don't want to be just leaking everywhere. But most of these bras bring the bring a little slit inside. So this is actually like a nipple shield. Maybe if you leak a lot, you might need something extra, but this is pretty thick. So just see what it is that you need and go from there. But when it came to looking for shirts for nursing, there weren't a lot of options. I ended up finding a few, but they're not really that cute. But I mean, they do what they're supposed to do. So here's an example of one. And so you just, the shirt goes like this, and you can basically pull it up and then pull it down. So this part is sort of like a tank top, but this part actually goes over your breast, and this part goes over your breast. But you can basically just like slip your breast out And then you can just like put this over and cover it up. So it's pretty discreet if you don't want anybody to see anything and you just so happen not to have a cover. That's one option. This is another option that I found out there. And it's basically just a long shirt and it has a slit along the side. And so it just completely opens on both sides. What's cool about it is that you can just lift it up a little bit, put your baby under, and then you can actually use this to cover the baby if you want some privacy. So I found that these were pretty cool, but not that fashionable. They don't really seem to have a lot of stuff out there for breastfeeding mamas, but that's the best stuff that I found. And I mean, I wore those shirts all the time. You could also just wear a regular t-shirt. It just gets a little bit tricky when you're wearing a dress because you obviously can't lift the dress from the bottom because you're just gonna be showing everything. So you have to pull it from the top, and people like me, we cannot do that because we're gonna be flashing everybody. So I have 3 more things on here. One of the things that I did to help my milk supply was take this mother's milk. You know, everybody talks about lactation cookies and lactation teas, and I actually didn't think that this was gonna work. And I drank this, I think about 2 teas a day. And aside from the pumping and everything else that I was doing, I had an oversupply. From not having any milk to having an oversupply because of this. So this was pretty good. And if you're struggling at all, I recommend these because they're great. Before I forget, it's so important to have nipple butters. So I use this cream over here. As you can see, I've basically used the entire tube. Sometimes when you pump and you're just pumping on a dry nipple, it feels like your nipple's just gonna tear because it's just dry. So if you put this on and you moisturize it a little bit, it actually helps for it not to be painful. Also, I had tears all over my nipple. It was just really, really bad, and this just helped. So every time the baby would latch on, it would make it less painful than it was. So this is what I used, and it worked for me. If you want to go a more natural way, they do say that you can put olive oil or coconut oil on your breast because it's non-toxic for your baby. And I thought about doing that, but I didn't know how much he was going to like the flavor. And honestly, at that point, I just wanted to be able to breastfeed my baby. So I didn't want to be introducing any flavors to them, but it might work wonders. And the last thing on my list, I don't know why I left it last because I feel like it's so important, is my Bobby breastfeeding pillow. I use this every single time that I breastfed my baby, and I would take this with me everywhere. It helped me out so much, and it just made it so much easier for you to breastfeed, especially if you have larger breasts, because you have somewhere to rest the baby and you don't have to hold the baby for so long because that can definitely get tiring. So I highly recommend this. It worked wonders for me and it made my life so much easier, and it's just portable. You can take it anywhere. And that's it for my breastfeeding essentials. I am going to be doing a video on my breastfeeding journey because it was such a struggle for me, and if I can help anybody out, that would be amazing because I wish I had known what I know now. So if you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel, and see you guys next time. Bye.